Daniel Carter never imagined the night would end with his clothes soaked in rainwater on the front lawn of the home he built with his own hands. His wife, Vanessa, stood at the doorway laughing while the man she had secretly been seeing leaned casually against the wall inside, sipping Daniel's whiskey like he belonged there. Then Vanessa looked him straight in the eyes and delivered 5 words that shattered everything he thought was real. "You were never enough, Daniel." The door slammed shut, and in one brutal moment, Daniel lost his marriage, his home, and the life he had spent 15 years building. But Vanessa had no idea that the broken man standing alone in the storm would eventually become the reason she could never sleep peacefully again. Before this story unfolds, tell us in the comments where you're watching Grand Tales from tonight. And if stories about betrayal, revenge, redemption, and powerful comebacks inspire you, subscribe now, because this journey will leave you speechless. My name is Daniel Carter. At 38 years old, I had spent most of my adult life building something meaningful. I wasn't famous, and I wasn't born rich, but I was respected. I owned a successful construction company in Atlanta that specialized in luxury homes for celebrities, politicians, and wealthy clients. Entire gated communities existed because of my vision and hard work. I came from nothing. My father worked as a mechanic. My mother cleaned other people's homes to help us survive. We lived paycheck to paycheck, and as a child, I promised myself that one day I would create a better life for my future family. And eventually, I did. By 35, I had everything I once dreamed about: a beautiful house, a thriving company, and a wife I adored. Vanessa Carter. Vanessa was unforgettable. Elegant, ambitious, beautiful in a way that drew attention effortlessly. When we first met, she worked in a small designer retail store. She had drive and hunger in her eyes, and I admired that deeply. I supported her goals completely. I paid for her business classes, helped her build professional connections, and invested money into launching her boutique. When her luxury fashion brand finally became successful, I stood beside her proudly through every achievement. For years, I believed we were partners. But success has a dangerous way of exposing what people truly value. At first, the changes in Vanessa were subtle. Business meetings stretched late into the night. Phone calls became secretive. Passwords appeared on every device. Her warmth slowly disappeared and criticism replaced it. "You're great at building houses, Daniel," she would say with a smile that somehow felt insulting, "but you don't really belong in the circles I'm entering now." I laughed it off in the beginning. I convinced myself every marriage had difficult seasons. But deep down, something felt terribly wrong. Then Marcus Hale entered the picture. Marcus was a wealthy investor Vanessa met during a luxury branding event in Miami. He was arrogant, flashy, and born into money, the type of man who treated people like stepping stones beneath expensive shoes. Vanessa claimed he was helping expand her business internationally. I wanted to believe her. Until the night I saw the text message. Her phone lit up on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I wasn't searching for anything, but the message appeared clearly across the screen. "Can't stop thinking about last night. You looked better in my penthouse than you ever did in his house." My entire body went cold. People think betrayal feels like fire, but it doesn't. It feels like ice. For a week, I pretended I saw nothing while quietly gathering the truth. What I uncovered destroyed me completely. Hotel reservations, secret financial transfers, intimate messages, photographs. My wife wasn't only cheating on me. She was planning to erase me. Vanessa and Marcus had been secretly preparing for divorce for months. They were shifting assets, manipulating financial records, and creating a narrative that painted me as financially irresponsible. She wanted my business connections, my resources, and my money without having to keep me. One night, I sat in my office staring at stacks of financial documents while my attorney and longtime friend Theodore reviewed the evidence. "Daniel," he said carefully, "she's setting this up to make you look reckless. If she files first with this story, you could lose almost everything." I could barely breathe. 15 years of sacrifice suddenly felt meaningless. Still, part of me hoped there had to be some explanation. Maybe she was confused. Maybe this was temporary. Maybe the woman I loved was still somewhere beneath all of this. So I confronted her. I will never forget that night. Vanessa walked into our marble kitchen wearing a red silk dress and smelling like expensive perfume and another man's attention. I placed the evidence on the counter in front of her, receipts, photos, messages. For a brief second, she froze. Then she laughed. Not nervously. Not guiltily. She laughed. "You finally figured it out," she said. My chest tightened painfully. "Vanessa, why?" She crossed her arms confidently. "Because I got tired of pretending." "Pretending what?" "That this life was enough." I stared at her in disbelief. "I built this life for us," I shouted. "No," she snapped, stepping closer. "You built a safe life. A boring life." Marcus showed me what real power looks like. I barely recognized the woman standing in front of me. "You used me." She tilted her head slightly. "I outgrew you." Those 3 words hit harder than any scream ever could. Not "I'm sorry." Not "it's complicated." Just "I outgrew you." Then she handed me divorce papers already signed. "You can fight it if you want," she said casually. "But Marcus has better lawyers. You'll only embarrass yourself." I wish I could say I walked away proudly. I didn't. I begged. Not because I was weak, but because I was grieving. Grieving my marriage, my family, and the future I thought we shared. But Vanessa had already buried all of that. 2 weeks later, things became even worse. Using manipulated financial accusations and legal pressure, Vanessa forced me out of my own house during the divorce proceedings. My accounts were frozen pending investigation. My business reputation suffered. Some partners even distanced themselves from me entirely. And then came the worst night of my life. Vanessa threw my belongings outside in trash bags while rain poured from the sky and neighbors watched from their windows. Marcus wrapped an arm around her waist and smirked. "Guess builders don't always own what they build." Vanessa smiled beside him. That was the exact moment something inside me died. And something far more dangerous was born. After that night, I disappeared from Atlanta's elite circles for 6 months. Rumors spread everywhere. Daniel went bankrupt. Vanessa destroyed him. He had a breakdown. Vanessa enjoyed every rumor. She flooded social media with luxury vacations, designer events, exotic cars, and glamorous photos with Marcus. She wanted the world to believe she upgraded her life, and that I was the mistake she escaped from. But while she was performing for attention, I was rebuilding in silence. Pain became fuel. I sold whatever assets I could legally access and relocated to Texas, where I reconnected with Raymond Vez, a self-made real estate mogul and former client who respected loyalty and hard work more than appearances. Raymond understood betrayal well. "One thing about men like us," he told me over whiskey one evening, "is that losing everything doesn't kill us. It makes us dangerous. Together, we launched a luxury commercial development partnership. I worked relentlessly, 18-hour days, no distractions, no self-pity, no excuses. Within 2 years, my comeback exceeded anything I had previously achieved. Our company became one of the fastest growing private development firms in the South. I wasn't just successful again. I was untouchable. And during that time, I met Serena Vaughn. Serena was nothing like Vanessa. She came from old money, yet carried herself with humility and intelligence. She was a brilliant corporate attorney whose confidence could silence entire rooms without raising her voice. When we met, she knew exactly who I was, not the broken man from the divorce scandal, but the man who survived it. She didn't pity me. She challenged me, protected me, understood me. And slowly, she helped me remember something important. Betrayal may break your heart, but it should never break your value. 3 years after the divorce, I received an invitation to Atlanta's elite fashion gala hosted by Vanessa Hale. Of course she married Marcus. By then, their image dominated social media. They were called a power couple, polished, glamorous, untouchable. But appearances are often expensive lies. The night of the gala, Serena adjusted my tie and smiled. Ready? I looked at my reflection, tailored tuxedo, calm eyes, confidence earned through survival. Outside waited my black Rolls-Royce Spectre. Owned, not rented. Oh, I said quietly, I'm ready. The moment we arrived, cameras flashed everywhere. At first, people didn't recognize me. Then the whispers started. Is that Daniel Carter? I thought he disappeared. I heard he lost everything. Then Vanessa turned around. The champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered across the marble floor. Because standing beside me was Serena Vaughn, one of the most powerful legal and financial strategists in the country, and the daughter of Marcus Hill's biggest business competitor. Vanessa looked completely shaken. Daniel. I smiled politely. Hello, Vanessa. Marcus stepped forward, pretending confidence. Well, look who came back from the dead. Serena calmly slid her hand into mine. Oh, Daniel isn't back, she said smoothly while looking directly at Vanessa. He owns the building your after-party is being held in. Silence swallowed the room. Then Serena delivered another devastating blow. And Marcus, she added casually, our firm will see you Monday regarding your emergency debt restructuring. Marcus's face tightened instantly. Vanessa suddenly realized something terrifying. The man she once humiliated in the rain now held power over the empire she built with the man she chose instead. But neither of them knew the real reason I came to that gala. Theodore had uncovered something hidden inside our original divorce proceedings. Something illegal. Something devastating. Something capable of destroying both Vanessa and Marcus permanently. I reached into my jacket pocket and removed the sealed envelope. You should have been more careful what you forged. Vanessa's face drained of color. The music continued playing throughout the gala. Wealthy guests continued laughing and pretending nothing was wrong. But inside our circle, the atmosphere changed completely. Marcus stared at the envelope like it contained a loaded weapon. And in many ways, it did. What is that? Vanessa whispered. Truth, I answered coldly. Years earlier, Theodore suspected some of the documents used during the divorce were suspiciously polished. At the time, I was too emotionally destroyed to investigate further. But Theodore never stopped digging. What he uncovered went beyond betrayal. It was fraud. Vanessa and Marcus had forged my digital signatures, rerouted corporate funds, created shell companies, and manipulated financial records to destroy my reputation while protecting themselves. They didn't just want to leave me behind. They wanted to bury me permanently. Theodore advised patience while evidence quietly accumulated. Over time, greed made Vanessa and Marcus careless. A forensic investigation eventually uncovered tax evasion, counterfeit financial statements, investor deception, and fraudulent business loans tied to Vanessa's fashion empire. From the outside, they looked unstoppable. Behind the scenes, they were standing on glass. And I had finally arrived with the first ton. Vanessa stepped closer nervously. Daniel, this isn't the place. I almost laughed. She had humiliated me publicly in the rain, but now suddenly she wanted privacy. No, I replied calmly. This is exactly the place. Marcus tried to recover his confidence. You're making a mistake. Serena smiled slightly. No, Marcus. Your mistake was assuming the man you destroyed wouldn't learn how powerful silence can be. That sentence hit harder than a slap. People nearby were paying attention now. Phones lowered. Conversations stopped. Whispers spread rapidly through the ballroom. Power attracts attention. But watching power shift, that freezes entire rooms. I handed Vanessa the envelope. Her hands trembled while reading the contents: forensic audits, transaction records, and forged authorization documents bearing both her signature and Marcus's. No, she whispered. Marcus grabbed the papers desperately. This isn't possible. Then another voice interrupted. Oh, it's very possible. Theodore stepped forward beside two federal financial investigators. Marcus looked genuinely terrified for the first time. You called federal agents? Vanessa asked in disbelief. Theodore adjusted his cufflinks calmly. No, Vanessa. Daniel simply did what you should have done years ago. What? Told the truth. The room erupted into chaos. Not loudly. Socially. Gasps. Whispers. Phones recording. Names spreading across the ballroom. Atlanta's golden couple was under federal investigation. Marcus attempted to protest. This is harassment. One investigator stepped forward. Mr. Hale, we have warrants connected to financial fraud, evidence tampering, and misrepresentation. Then he turned toward Vanessa. Mrs. Hale, we require your cooperation as well. Vanessa looked at me with pure fear in her eyes. Daniel, please. Funny how that word returns once consequences arrive. I leaned closer and spoke quietly. You begged me to leave my own house. Tonight, I'm simply returning the favor. Marcus glared at me angrily. You think you've won? I looked directly into his eyes. No. I won the moment I stopped needing revenge to heal. And that was the truth. Because this night was never truly about destroying them. They had already destroyed themselves. I was simply the witness carrying proof. Within 48 hours, their empire began collapsing publicly. News outlets exploded with headlines about fraud investigations and financial corruption. Investors panicked. Sponsors backed away. Business partners disappeared. Serena's family firm legally suspended critical distribution agreements with Vanessa's company pending investigation, and the financial bleeding started immediately. Then the final bombshell surfaced. Marcus had secretly leveraged Vanessa's brand to support unrelated failing investments. The glamorous life Vanessa believed she upgraded into was built partly on deception. She hadn't married a king. She had married a man standing on financial explosives. And now everything was detonating around them. Weeks later, Marcus was indicted on multiple white-collar charges. Assets were frozen. Properties seized. Luxury cars repossessed. Even the mansion Vanessa once took from me was gone. Turns out banks reclaim arrogance very quickly. Vanessa eventually cooperated with investigators to avoid prison time, but her reputation and empire never recovered. The same elite world that once worshipped her disappeared overnight. Then one rainy evening, someone knocked on my penthouse door. Serena answered first, then looked back at me silently. I already knew who it was. Vanessa stood there alone in the rain. No designer glamour. No cameras. No markers. Just consequences. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but emotionally. Like life had finally stripped away the illusion she spent years chasing. I just want to talk, she whispered. Serena looked at me carefully. I nodded. Not because Vanessa deserved access to my life again, but because I deserved peace. We sat together quietly for a long moment before Vanessa finally spoke. I was horrible to you. I remained silent. Tears filled her eyes. I thought success meant escaping the frightened version of myself. The poor version. The dependent version. She shook her head slowly. But all I really did was become someone worse. Still, I said nothing. Because some apologies aren't attempts to repair damage. They are confessions. I don't expect forgiveness, she whispered. I just need to know something. Her voice cracked. Did you ever really love me? That question felt tragic. Because for the first time, I fully understood the truth about people like Vanessa. Sometimes people destroy good things not because they were unloved, but because they never believed they were enough without conquest and validation. So I answered honestly. I loved you long after you stopped loving yourself. That broke her completely. Not dramatically. Quietly. The most painful kind of breaking. She looked around at my peaceful life, at Serena, at the success I rebuilt, and finally understood something too late. She didn't lose me during the divorce. She lost me the moment she mistook loyalty for weakness. After Vanessa left, Serena sat beside me gently. You okay? And for the first time in years, I truly was. Because healing is not about proving your worth to the people who betrayed you. It's about realizing their betrayal never had the power to define your value in the first place. A year later, my company expanded internationally. Serena and I created scholarship programs for underprivileged trade students, young people with talent, ambition, and no shortcuts, just like I once was. Because pain can either make you bitter, or make you build bridges others can cross. Vanessa disappeared quietly from Atlanta's spotlight after the scandal. No empire. No luxury image. No markers. Only reflection and consequences. Marcus eventually learned in federal prison what money could never teach him. Humility. As for me, I kept one thing from that terrible night years ago. One of the trash bags Vanessa used to throw my clothes into the rain. I keep it framed privately inside my office. Not out of bitterness, but as a reminder. Every empire I build now, every peaceful morning, every victory, every moment of happiness exists because one night I lost everything and finally realized I was never nothing. So if you're watching this tonight while feeling broken, humiliated, abandoned, or underestimated by someone who failed to see your value, hear this clearly. Rock bottom is not where your story ends. Sometimes it's where the real story finally begins. And the people who laugh while you fall are usually the same people who freeze when they witness what you rise into. Thank you for spending this journey with Uncle James Tales. And remember, sometimes the greatest revenge is not destruction. It's rebuilding your life so powerfully that your happiness becomes impossible to ignore.